And she's already laughing. Okay, I tried to read that Vogue piece, Kellyanne. I didn't want to lose my lunch on the train, so I quit. Have you read the piece, and what do you make of it?
I had to read it because it's like a dramedy in action. By the way, Gavin Newsom didn't say he has eminence. The writer did. This is usually reserved for cardinals and kings and popes, but she's, I guess, calling him the eminence. Look, none of that's going to matter because Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom right now should write a book together as co-authors entitled Who Destroyed California Worse? I mean, who did most damage to California? They're not going to be able to escape their records. That's the whole point. You could write a lovely memoir about your family, about your history, about your biography, about your, quote, vision for America. These are the folks that broke what Donald Trump is trying to fix. They never voted for tax decreases, dereg, energy dominance. They're not trying to make peace deals and tax deals and trade deals everywhere. I mean, look at just the statistics in California alone. How do you escape the fact that you have the most homeless per capita in the country? You have businesses using your state as an exit, not an entrance. You have families leaving your state. You have you didn't have enough water for fires that you should have anticipated. The list goes on and on. But look, there's a world in which Gavin Newsom easily can become the Democratic nominee for president. He checks a lot of the boxes that they care about, frankly, and that they think the voters care about. But as for memoirs, I don't object for them unless they're meant to be a ploy for politics, because then you're not being authentic and genuine in them as you would be. Cory Booker, we needed to hear from him again in another book. This is a guy like Kamala Harris, ran for president in 2020. And guess how many electoral votes they both got from the Democrats? 0, the same number the three of us got that year. They got 0 electoral votes. So the people in their own party didn't want them. I don't think writing a memoir helps that a great deal.
Yeah, I agree with you, and especially your comment about a memoir. If they're trying to tell their own story, one has to ask, why are they trying to get this out now? But that's also why it makes journalism and pieces that you would expect or hope Vogue or even Vanity Fair to do to be more fair, and that is just not what they are delivering. It's not honest. I do want to switch gears, though, Kellyanne, while we still have you, and talk to you about the midterms, because we have those before we get to 2028. And top of mind for everyone right now is ICE. That's a big topic of conversation in Washington, D.C. And we have some recent Fox polling that shows how ICE is kind of being received by the American public. And in fact, the Wall Street Journal had an op-ed out today. You probably saw this, but the headline there, Trump's ICE tactics are alienating Americans. And Fox News polling shows that while most Americans approve of how President Trump is handling the border, it seems like there are some questions about what they're seeing with how ICE is handling deportations. I wanted to ask you, do you think, is this a vulnerability for Republicans heading into the midterms? And if so, what should the Trump administration do to help address that?
It was important and consequential that President Trump himself came out a weekend ago and said he doesn't want anyone to be hurt. I think that loss of life should be mourned, not scorned, my words, but he essentially said he feels badly for these families and he wants to make sure that we are following the law and deporting the worst first, etc. But I think him sending Tom Homan in there, who reminded us all that Democrats who don't really like religion have found religion all of a sudden on deportations, on immigration, on ICE. They told us for 4 years, lied to our faces, the border was secure, none of this was a big deal. And now they're actively telling citizens to record, report, protest, and contest. Do not comply with federal law enforcement. When you have your governor and your mayor telling people, don't comply, we end up with chaos. I think that the fact that 52% approve of the president on immigration tells you that the fundamentals are still there. You are correct. There's a Fox News poll, a Harvard-Harris poll, a Signal poll, all that point to Americans saying very clearly and unequivocally, we do support deportations of criminals and other folks who shouldn't be here or causing Americans harm. When they do see Americans being shot and we don't know all the circumstances, then people are going to protest. But look, the media created this. They're right there with their cameras. They're lighting a powder keg here, and I want them to calm down also. They didn't cover the $18 billion in fraud in Minnesota, but they're right there to agitate and to not educate.
Kellyanne, thanks for that analysis, and thanks for reading the Vogue piece so that we didn't have to. That's maybe what we appreciate most. Kellyanne Conway.
Listen, last point, you got to grow up if you think a glow up is going to be enough for 2028. It's not enough.
I still got to figure out what a glow up is. I'll do that in the break. Thanks, Kellyanne.